going on, you guys? My name is Ben Can, and today we're at Josh Mason's warehouse, and he's a 68 Camaro that is badass. It's a drift build. It's all over Instagram, so let's go check it out. That was a little loud.
What?
All right, so this is your Instagram famous Camaro. First time I saw it, you were like drifting in some like canyon, and it was pretty crazy.
Yep.
So tell me about it.
Believe it or not, it's not the first generation Camaro to basically be a drift car. This car was inspired by a blacktop rodeo that competed in Formula Drift. That was like my inspiration for my 68. That was a 69, but this has been my dream car. I'm not much of a Lambo or a Ferrari guy, but the 68 Camaro has been, you know, my absolute dream car, and I've definitely been blessed to have this car at a very early age. I bought this car when I was 18 years old. I spent 7 years of my hard time and money getting this car where it's at today. I've changed a couple of things over the years, and you know, never had a black fender before. I accidentally ran into another fellow drift car, a friend of mine, while we were on track. We just kind of started banging doors and stuff like that. But some things have changed, but still kept the orange paint job, still kept the wheels. These wheels, believe it or not, came off a 2001 BMW 530i that I owned, that I sold. And at the time I was selling the car, still wanted to keep the wheels. And I've done 100% of the work myself with this car, from fabbing the car, wiring the car, swapping the engine, swapping the transmission, even designing my own rear suspension setup on this car. The only thing I have not done to the car was do the body work and the paint. Transmission is also a Tremec TKO 600 transmission. The original trans was a Saginaw, which is the factory transmission as well. The rear end has now been swapped to a Ford 9-inch. So also originally these cars came with a leaf spring design suspension, and again, that's not good for drifting. It's not good for kind of any track use really. So I designed a 3-link torque arm suspension. I mean, I'm not going to get really too much into like the geometry and everything, but it just makes it better for anti-squat, better performance and stuff like that. And I seen the kits that they offered, and I didn't have the money at the time, but I had a shop, I had a welder and a little bit of know-how, so I just did it myself. And it's not perfect, but the whole philosophy, or my philosophy is just do it, make it, and if it doesn't work, you can always start over, you can always, you know, change things. It's just your time. And I'm a firm believer in doing it yourself, and because that's really, honestly, the only way to learn. The front suspension is pretty much factory subframe, with aftermarket control arms. Believe it or not, they're eBay control arms, because I also was doing this car on a budget. I put a lot of money into the motor and the transmission and the rear end, so when it came down to other things, I really had to budget everything right. And I got all around adjustable coilovers on it, front and back. A little bit about the interior before I guess we can go into the engine of the things. I built the cage myself. I did this cage when I was also working at many off-road shops. The seats are made by Twisted Stitch. While I was also in the off-road industry, we did a lot of side-by-side stuff. So these are actually UTV side-by-side seats that I installed into the car. They even got seat heaters, believe it or not.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they straight up got seat heaters in the bottoms and the lower backs.
Does it work though, or just?
Oh yeah. Sometimes it gets so hot you got to turn them off. Like, you start to sweat. Momo front steering wheel with a Sweet Manufacturing quick disconnect, autometer gauges, custom handbrake setup that I had to develop myself, including the bracket itself. A lot of the aluminum panels you see in the back, I custom bead rolled and fabricated myself. Eventually I want to do all of it aluminum, but you know, for now it's kind of doing what it's doing. I had to install these door bars. I mean, as you can see, they're not painted. I had to install these door bars in the car to put it on track with other like drift cars, because you know, if an accident happens, you go into the door, it can be a bad scenario. I had to cut into the floor to make the whole 9-inch swap fit, you know, or in the back, so that I could keep the car low. So I had to sheet metal the back, redid the inner quarter panels to the Detroit Speed quarter panels that you can put a wider tire in the back as well. Believe it or not, a father bought his son this car, and he was constantly street racing it in high school, so he made him park it, and when it parked, it never got back on the road. I guess him and his dad, you know, they butted heads or something and never got the car back together. So it sat in his backyard and he put it up for sale. I bought it for $6,500. So
must have been a happy 18-year-old.
Oh yeah, especially being 18 years old and basically, like I said, getting my dream car, which is the 68 Camaro. It was like, you know, you might as well have, you know, bought me an exotic car like my Porsche that I eventually want to get. But until then, the 68 Camaro does just fine. In all the years that I've owned this car, I've never really fabricated or made a hood prop. So I've been using this 3/4 inch piece of steel.
And you just keep that in the back seat?
I just keep it in the back seat. There's a video of Larry Chen chasing me on Horse Thief Mile. Like drifting Horse Thief Mile.
Oh yeah, I've seen that video.
And
yeah.
he's chasing me in his orange Z or whatever. And you can hear this in the back flopping around. Like you hear it ting, ting, ting in between the cage. Back to, so the engine, like I said, is a 383 stroker, being custom built. Nothing internally is the stock, so it's got Eagle rods, Eagle crank, forged pistons, comp cam, comp rockers. We're putting about 512 horsepower to the crank.
And this thing moves though, or spins tires.
Yeah, I mean, it gets down, it moves when you want it to move. Got Doug's headers, you know, your typical GM alternator with an Edelbrock Performance water pump. We're still running a mechanical fuel pump. MSD ignition, digital 6AL box with also MSD Pro Billet distributor. And yeah, I mean, the carburetor is a Holley, a 750 double pumper. The radiator is, I believe, a Dillon's radiator from eBay. Also super affordable and cheap. I've never had any issues with the radiator whatsoever. Willwood, brake master cylinder, front and back, as well as a quick steering box. Now to the brake system here, I've upgraded both front and back to a big brake kit. This is a 6-piston front caliper. These rotors are full floating hubs. And I also have for the handbrake setup, I have a set of dual reel calipers for the rear. So one set of calipers works like your regular pedal brake, and the other set of calipers just do the handbrake. Also, while we're down here, you can kind of see the tip of the exhaust that I fabricated myself. Again, this is all stainless steel. This is 3-inch oval, pie cut here. The tip of this, if you can kind of see how this one molds into this one, was inspired from, it was a Porsche 911 that I seen. But ever since I seen that exhaust tip, I just thought it'd be really cool to somehow fabricate something like that into this car and be kind of maybe a little bit Porsche influenced, just to give it a little bit of a, you know, uniqueness. I focus more on like little things like that than overall big things. You know, with all of my cars that I've built. I mean, I've been building cars since I was 16 years old. I got some pictures up here.
Oh yeah, let's check those
of,
out.
Cars. So the first car I ever built was a 1929 Ford Model A here. I started this project when I was 16 years old and I got it done like 6 months after I graduated high school. I did everything. Like I started with a Model A frame, then got a body, then got an engine, and it took me about 2.5 years.
How did you learn everything?
Just by doing it, man.
Did your dad know anything, or was it all you?
I would say, like, well, my grandfather has been basically the father figure in my life. So he's got a lot of know-how. He doesn't know, you know, everything, but I mean, he's been around cars and hot rods all his life. So he did give me my start. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today. Mm-hmm. But he gave me a good base, and then after that, it was kind of like snowball. You know, I was on YouTube, Google, and any resource that I could utilize for information, I utilized it. And that is what has made me where I am today, really. But yeah, I started with that car, and then obviously, good old Camaro here. Third car I ever built was my 2010 Ford Mustang that I've been drifting in Top Drift and the Drift League. This car earned me my Formula Drift Pro 2 license that I will be competing with next year in the year 2020, that actually I'm going to switch chassis. I'm going to be utilizing a 1995 Nissan 240, which is what you see right there. So this is going to be the Formula Drift Pro 2 build. And then the car up on the lot there is also another Nissan 240. So they're both S14 chassis. That will be the backup car. But yeah, I've been building cars and working on cars pretty consecutively since I was about 16 years old. And then, but it started with like little things like motor scooters and go-peds and bicycles. Like I've even made a chopper bicycle. So I've been doing this you know, kind of build thing since I was like really, really young. Always grew up around race cars and being around the racetrack and hearing, especially this generation now really needs to utilize the older generation when it comes to cars. Yeah, sometimes you're into, say, 240s or Hondas or whatever, but sometimes when you sit down and you listen to the older generation, how they built cars and how they put cars together and why, and there was no auto parts stores and no Jegs or Summit, like sometimes you got to do the same things that they did back in those days. So for a lot of younger guys that are building cars, like definitely utilize the older generation and soak up as much information as you can. So that is another tip that I could give you if I've been giving you any of you guys any tips.
Full knowledge.
Yeah, so, you know, it's really good to utilize any resource that you can. You know, the internet's good, but also sometimes you got to listen to the older generation.
You've made a collection of engines.
I have.
Over the years.
My engine building room is kind of a catastrophe right now. We've been pretty busy with getting my buddy's car ready for Top Drift and also playing musical cars with everything I got in the shop. But I got some fun things that I can share with you. This is my LS2 engine that I built for my 2010 Mustang that I've been using in the Drift League. This motor was turbocharged. I utilized this turbo right here, which is a comp turbo, 76 millimeter right here. Very good turbo. I've had very, very good luck. So the guys at comp take care of me well. This engine with this turbo produced 835 horsepower to the crank.
Crazy.
We were at about 680 to about 740, depending on how much I turned the boost up to the wheels. So this stout motor and very, very good motor. I also got my grandfather's old big block here that came out of his drag boat. Also got my 5.3 engine that I also had in the Mustang before I built this motor. That motor produced 556 rear wheel horsepower, also utilizing the comp turbo. And here's the manifold for my LS2 as well. Also, we got some foreign engine here too. You got
a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything in here. These are basically my buddy Derek that also has the red crested outside. These are his JZ engines, which he just recently gave me a 1J. So I have come from V8s and just being a V8 guy. Now I myself have stepped into a new realm of engine building and whatever with these JZ engines. So now that I own a 1J, I've been trying to figure out ways to maybe build that and put in something. Also just acquired a G-Force GSR transmission dog box. T56 transmission, that's also a good transmission. Ford 9-inch aluminum third member with a spool and all the go fast goodies. That also came out of my Mustang.
And you made that lamp. I saw a video on that.
Right, yeah. I definitely did do a YouTube video on that lamp. Also got a nice little AN fitting bench here, so anytime I'm plumbing something on, say, like an engine or the race car or whatever, and I don't know exactly what size, I can utilize my little an array of AN fittings here. It also says like what part number, what dash it is. It's just really nice to have, and I've always utilized that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so this is like my kind of Build-A-Bear workshop of engines and transmissions.
For men.
But for men, yeah, for car stuff. So it's not bears. It's like, if you want to go the JDM route, we can go JDM route. We can go New American or Old American. I guess I got it all, but, it is, that's my engine room.
Hell yeah. So do you think you'll be able to give me a little ride in the Camaro?
Yeah, let's go, man.
Hell yeah.
First, and then you kind of grab into the roll cage. Cool. That works too.
Race car.
This door bar is kind of suck.
So are you ever going to make it quieter, or you like it this way?
every time I drive this thing down to the beach with that far of a like drive, my left eardrum always gets blown out. By the time I'm there, I'm like, I'm in, you know, I'm in the restaurant, like what, with my right ear. So maybe I might put some mufflers on it or something like that. But I mean, you can't beat that sound, you know? So, especially straight pipe. So I don't know, it's kind of like, maybe I'll just wear earplugs or something.
It's pretty weird. All the exhaust noise is on one of my ears and not on this side. No more evidence.
It was never outside.
Can't catch us. That was crazy, dude.
It's a ripper.
The cops are coming.
Let's hope not. It wouldn't be the first time. And
Well, thanks.
Hate to say it probably wouldn't be the last.
Well, if you guys want to see more of him, let me know. But with that being said, take care.
Hell yeah.